So I think that President Obama, in terms of foreign policy, was leagues better than President Bush. With that being said, though, he was still completely awful because he did things that were unacceptable. He broke international laws. He implemented foreign policies that led to the slaughter of countless civilians. Now, with each successive presidency, each president should get better because you look to the past and learn from the mistakes of your predecessor. However, it's the case that Donald Trump is already repeating some of President Obama's biggest foreign policy mistakes. So, for example, when it comes to the drone war, President Obama immediately ramped up the drone war in Pakistan, Yemen, and Somalia, but he scaled it back once he realized how many civilians were dying and just how little enemy combatants they were actually killing. So, with that being said, he scaled it back, although he still continued to drone illegally in not just Pakistan, Yemen, and Somalia, but he increased it. Now we're droning in Libya and Syria. So, I mean, we're at war with multiple countries. This is war. And that's illegal under international law. You can't violate their territorial integrity by droning them because we wouldn't want another country to drone us. But Obama was doing this, and Trump is now doing the same thing because he immediately ramped up drone strikes. So according to the Council on Foreign Relations, by at least one measure at this point in his presidency, Trump has been more interventionist than Obama in authorizing drone strikes and special operations raids in non-battlefield settings, namely in Pakistan, Yemen, and Somalia. During President Obama's 2 terms in office, he approved 542 such targeted strikes in 2,920 days, one every 5.4 days. From his inauguration through today, President Trump had approved at least 36 strikes or raids in 45 days, one every 1.25 days. These include 3 drone strikes in Yemen on January 20th, 21st, and 22nd, the January 28th Navy SEAL raid in Yemen, 1 reported strike in Pakistan on March 1st, and more than 30 strikes in Yemen on March 2nd and 3rd, and at least 1 more on March 6th. Thus, people who believe that Trump would be less interventionist than Obama are wrong, at least so far, and at least when it comes to drone strikes. These dramatically increased lethal strikes demonstrate that U.S. leaders' counterterrorism mindset and policies are bipartisan and transcend presidential administrations. So, if you see that the last administration tried to ramp up drone strikes and it was a disaster, they killed more civilians than militants, why would you get in and repeat the same exact mistake immediately? It makes no sense. Now, if you thought that that was enough, well, his State Department is repeating the same mistakes of President Obama's State Department under the tenure of Hillary Clinton. So The Independent explains the State Department has approved resuming arms sales to Saudi Arabia, previously blocked by Barack Obama. A multi-million-dollar technology deal for Riyadh was blocked by the former president during the final months of his administration over human rights concerns. By approving the measure, Secretary of State Rex Tillerson may have given an indication the Trump administration will seek closer ties with Saudi Arabia in the Yemen war. So much like Donald Trump, Secretary of State Rex Tillerson is not learning from the mistakes of his predecessor. Now, Hillary Clinton approved a Saudi weapons deal once she received a contribution from them to the Clinton Foundation, and what we then learned was that they were committing war crimes in Yemen. Now, what Saudi Arabia claims is that they're only targeting Houthi rebels, but 10,000 civilians have been killed in the process, yet the U.S. continues to stand by our ally, Saudi Arabia, as they commit atrocities, and now by arming Saudi Arabia again, we are now complicit in the war crimes they're committing in Yemen. So the takeaway is that we are incapable of learning our lesson. We do something super horrible, it backfires, and not even a decade later, we're willing to do that same thing again and make the same exact mistakes. It's just beyond frustrating. It's mind-boggling. It's mind-numbingly stupid. It doesn't make any sense to me. And, you know, as Democrats continue to fearmonger about Russia and call out Russian aggression, nobody's willing to be a little bit introspective and look in the mirror and see what we're doing. Nobody's calling out our acts of aggression. Nobody's calling out the drone strikes that we're conducting in other countries illegally. Nobody's talking about the bad things that we're doing. We only want to call out everyone else. We're all hypocrites. So this is so disgusting to me. And to those of you who thought that he was non-interventionist, my listeners all know, I was trying to let you know he wasn't. He was having private meetings with defense contractors like Boeing, and furthermore, he's given us these little indications here and there that he will be hawkish. I mean, when you say that you want to kill the families of ISIS, you want to literally execute civilians, you're not non-interventionist. You are the worst kind of war hawk. So Donald Trump and his administration, obviously they're militarists, but it's frustrating that they're not just making mistakes that are obviously avoidable, they're making the same mistakes that we already made. It's not going to work, Trump. Learn the lesson that Obama learned.
Support this podcast by joining the independent progressive media revolution today at humanistreport.com.